Well, hello everybody. I'm your host Ed Parcaut, and let's bring in our guest today, Justin Martinez. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
Uh, all right. So there's only one question I ask on every show: what service did you choose? Even though I know what it is, and why?
What service? So I chose the Army, mainly because I think the Marines were a little too intense for me at the time, and but I still wanted to be a little hua, so chose the Army, and I'm glad I did. Had a great time, and it was a good experience.
Now you were your service. I know you. I don't know if this is true because sometimes when I do my assistant, I call Chad, which is Chad GPT. Sometimes changes stuff on me, and Chad says you were with the 10th Mountain Division and you're a Ranger.
Yeah, I was 10th Mountain Division was my unit, and then I went through Ranger School and had Ranger tab and everything.
And how long were you in?
I had a 3 year and 18-week contract. So I got out like a couple weeks early on a school drop. So just a little over 3 years.
Wow. And what year were you in?
I joined in 2012, got out in 2015.
So right after 9/11, is that why you joined?
I mean, yeah, it was a little ways after. It was definitely something I wanted to do.
Well, it was
Called
a
the
year after 9/11, 20. You said 12, right?
2012, yeah.
Yeah, a year. Oh, a year after or so. It's not that long after. I don't mean not everybody joined the moment. A lot of people did, but I
Yeah.
mean, you probably were too young to join in 2011.
I was in like third or fourth grade. So
Uh, and so it was the reason I asked that question about why you chose is I had a lady who chose the Army because the recruiter took her out for a steak.
hey, that probably that might have persuaded me too, That might have persuaded me too.
Yeah, I just the Navy guaranteed what I was going to do. When my son was joining, we went over. He went first with the Air Force. They wouldn't guarantee him. He went to the Army, and the Army guaranteed. And he's like, "Should I go try the Navy?" I'm like, "For what you want to do? No, because you'll be on a ship. You won't be lucky like your dad, who was never on a ship." So
Yeah, that was the deterrent for me. I had a couple buddies that had already joined and they went in the Navy and different things and they were not guaranteed and that didn't sound fun to me.
boatswain's mate is because I remember when I was signing up, the guy's like, "You could just be a boatswain mate. You could do every job on the ship."
Yeah.
No, you don't. You get to paint the damn ship all
You
the
get to
time. That's
paint, mop,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You don't ever do that. And I'm sure he had people coming back to find him.
Yeah.
All right. So while you're in, what did you get out of the service?
Um Honestly, it was good. I was really good at being a soldier. I have an entrepreneurial mindset, and it just wasn't really for me being controlled and tamed every day. And I had a really crappy first sergeant. Honestly, the he was just my first sergeant towards the end. He really taught me just how miserable your experience in the military could be. Having someone in so much control over you dictate. He was like he like got off on making our lives miserable, and I was not about that. It was rough.
Wow. Yeah, that's why I got out. I got tired of somebody who was above me, who wasn't smarter than me, who
Yeah,
just put more time in and could tell me what to do.
it's 100% what like I don't want to hate on anyone that joins the military, but
No.
some people join because they didn't really have any other options, and then they stay in long enough, and eventually they acquire rank, and they are in charge of you, and it just some of the stuff they say doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I mean, I joined and got my bachelor's and master's, and that's what I used it for.
Yep,
And I think everybody should. The Army's going to use the military, whatever Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Space Force is going to use you for whatever they need. You need to use them for whatever you need.
absolutely. I knew I didn't want to take out student loans. I knew I wanted to go to college. I knew if I did, an honorable contract and I'd get my college paid for. And same, I used my GI Bill to get both my bachelor's and my master's degree.
And what did you get it in?
I got my bachelor's in business entrepreneurship, and then I got my master's in real estate development.
And do you do real estate development to this day?
I haven't developed anything. No, I'm very heavy in real estate. I do fix and flips, renos, Airbnbs. Nothing really I learned in my program, but the next step would be to get into some developing for sure.
Where are you located?
I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Okay, good place to be.
Yeah, it's not bad, not too expensive, good markets, a lot of appreciation still, so good area.
The only negative humidity.
Yeah, it's not terrible. It could be worse. South Carolina's worse.
Yeah,
Georgia's worse. I'm in a little pocket because of the Smoky Mountains, a lot
yeah,
of fresh trees. It's not terrible.
it's not terrible. I like that. She has a good personality. I'm in California, Modesto. We get hot,
Okay,
but yeah, we get humidity comes twice a year if we're lucky.
fair
But
enough.
we get yes, there's 22 days we're over 100, and some of those days could be 110. But
Okay,
I much rather have that than 80 and humidity because I went to specialty school in San Antonio, Texas,
okay.
and it was 80 and freaking 80, and you're inside and you're just still sweating.
Miserable.
Yeah.
No, I was actually born and raised in Lancaster, California, so
Okay.
just not too far from you.
Yeah.
3 hours.
So a lot of people I've been, and I don't this wrong, but ever since the VA loan has changed to where you can use it for a lot of stuff, it's been a lot easier for people to buy properties and be able to do stuff more. Where prior to that, it was much harder because me in the 90s and 2000 when people tried to use their VA loan to do things in a lot of areas, you couldn't buy property.
Really?
It wasn't enough to purchase that property, so you needed to have a lot more down. Where now I see everywhere popping up how to use your VA loan to do this, and
Yes,
there's some people who are talking about, oh, you can do these hacks, and I'm like, that's illegal, but okay. uh, some, and that's I'm not, and that's not what I'm just stating the fact that I think it's important for everybody to buy a house and have get their use their VA loan if they're in, buy something where you're at a triplex, a fourplex, whatever it is, and then when you move to the next duty station, buy it again if you can.
for
But there are
sure.
some people who are trying to, they it's pushing the line, almost breaking it. You got to be careful with what they tell you to do. So.
For sure.
And so, how did you get into? I know you have your degree in it, but how did you get into doing the fix and flips? Did you start with cabins or something? I read.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I just kind of always understood real estate. Like even when I went to college, you get out of the military, I knew I didn't want to pay rent anywhere. So I was 23, used my VA loan. I qualified, bought my first house right off campus, 4 bedrooms with a pool. I went to Arizona State, and so I was able to rent the rooms out and cover my mortgage, live for free, and I was cash flowing about $500 a month over 3 years. So, it was pretty cool. So I got a good intro to real estate, and then after the 3 years after my undergrad, I sold it for like a $80,000 tax-free profit. And then I took that money and I rolled it into, I bought an Airbnb here in the Smoky Mountains in Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. And then that started doing really, really well. And I bought another one. It just kind of spiraled into a chain of buying a bunch. And so I bought at the right time. And then I kind of got burnt out on Airbnb as a company. So I sold at the right time and I made pretty good money. So then I was able to take that money and go start putting that into full on fix and flips and cash deals.
And how long you been doing fix and flips?
Um, I mean, full on fix and flips, just about a year and a half now. I was actually flipping Airbnbs prior to that, so that's where it was crazy. I bought a couple
I was going to say,
properties.
explain how do you flip an Airbnb?
So like in Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, this market really only exists for, you got Dollywood, the Smoky Mountains is the most traveled to national park in the country. So there's literally tens of thousands of cabins that all exist for overnight rental. And when Airbnb came on the scene, they kind of blew up. And back in 2020, when interest rates were 3% and everyone was getting on this Airbnb wagon, when a property would pop up on the market, I mean, literally within 20 minutes, it would have 20, 30 offers, $50,000 over asking, all cash. It was almost impossible to buy them. But what I noticed where it would be like Airbnb, 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 someone's house, Airbnb, Airbnb, Airbnb. And the house would be these older couple that have lived here forever that are like, screw it, we're finally going to sell, go to Florida, and we're out. We're going to capitalize on the high prices. But they were sitting on the market because all the investors only wanted turnkey properties. So I just finished my master's degree. I already had like 2 or 3 Airbnbs, cash flowing really well. I had a good bank account. So I was like, I don't need to go get a job. So I was like, that would make a great Airbnb. So I bought the first one and I was like, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to move into it. I'm going to live there. I spent like 4 months converting it into an Airbnb. Mini golf courses, redoing the bathrooms. I built mini golf courses on every property, awesome game rooms, did a bunch of stuff. And then I put it on Airbnb, got it cash flowing. And then I was able to sell it as a cash producing asset to those Airbnb investors. So I had 2 properties that I bought both for $500,000 a piece. I put about 80 grand into each one, put them on Airbnb for 6 months, pulled my 80 grand back out of it, got it booked with $100,000 book of rent roll. And then I sold them. One I sold for $850,000 6 months later. And the other one I sold for $950,000 6 months later. And I bought them for 500 grand. So
Wow.
it was, and I did that like 4 or 5 times. And yeah, I was able to stack a lot of cash doing that. So it was pretty cool.
How's the tax rate there?
It sucks. Yeah, no, I paid a ton of taxes, man. I didn't 1031 it. I knew I was going to pay taxes. I paid multiple 6 figures in taxes, and it sucked. But look, if you're paying a lot of money in taxes, you're making a lot of money too. So but it sucked. I literally wrote one year. I wrote a check in taxes. I could buy a Ferrari right now with this money I'm just handing away.
Yeah. The reason I bring that up is California's horrible with that when it comes to like, if you don't hold it for a year and you're flipping that stuff, they, keep back a 33
short-term capital gains. A couple of them I got hit pretty hard. Once I learned about short-term versus long-term, I started holding for at least a year. Makes a big difference, goes from like 30% down to 15, 20%. Huge difference.
Yeah, but you gotta be careful because I did that with some crypto and I lost my ass in it. Needed 3 more freaking days.
Oh no, not the crypto.
Well, it was like, I flipped so much stuff into that. I was making so much money. I'm like, oh, I'll buy it with it. Then I'm like, yeah, I better sell that. And then I'm like, okay, I got to wait because I don't want to do 15 per, 30. I want to do less. And then I was like, I'll just wait it. And then all of a sudden, boom, I was like, damn.
No.
So what I'm saying is all I'm saying is sometimes it doesn't pay, real estate's different. Unless you're in Florida right now or in Texas right now, where there's much more properties on the market than any other time because a lot of people move there. And what a lot of people don't realize is because everybody was saying go to Texas, and I'm like, okay, well, the problem with Texas, well, first of all, their tax rate, their property tax is 3%. Second, their tax rate can go up 10% of whatever the value of the house goes up each year. So on average, their taxes double every 10 years. Where California, we're only 1 1/8 to 1 1/4, and we're protected with Prop 13, where it can only go up 3% of whatever the value has went up that year.
That's good because there's years where values were going up extra, just insane.
Well, and that's like in Texas, not San Antonio, but Austin. There were so many Airbnbs, and then all of a sudden they're on the market to be sold because the fact that the tax rate doubled. Right, you went from 250 to 500,000, and now you're paying 500,000 in tax on the taxes, and it doesn't pencil anymore.
No,
and then so you have to be careful where you're buying this stuff. And so as much as people made a lot of money in the past, you have to be careful because it doesn't always mean that's how much you're going to make going forward.
No, there was a little bubble from 2020. I think it was like a perfect storm with like low interest rates. Airbnb came on the scene, prices were low, and it just kind of created this perfect storm where it just drove the housing market bonkers.
Same with multi-family, and I'm talking apartment complexes. People are buying those things with adjustables really low instead of doing like the Fannie Mae's 4.75, and there's a huge amount of those coming on the market in the last year because of that. And so it's a great time if you haven't already to pick. If you want to do apartment complexes, it's a good thing. I'm not a specialist in that at all. I own a mortgage company.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So and I've been doing VA loans forever. I can close a VA loan in 8 days.
Heck yeah. That's nice.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. I learned something. So obviously, you use the VA loan, and if you sell the property or refinance the property, get out of the loan, you can utilize it again. I've used it twice now. I was told by a lender once, or a broker, that basically you have one time, and he said he did it. He's like, I did it. We found it and we did it. You have one time in your life where you can actually use a second VA loan at one time.
Not true.
Not true, huh?
You can use it multiple times.
Well, you can use it multiple times, but I'm talking
about you can, if you own a house here, you can have 2 VA loans at the same time.
Okay. So
period.
You can do that.
Period. Yes. Period. So I own a house, right? Just as an example, say I own a house and it goes off of the conforming loan limit. is the
Yeah.
issue you run with. So say your first loan is 400,000 and you're
Yeah.
going to buy the next property and it's 500,000.
Yeah. You're over.
Yeah, but that's okay. See, don't be so negative. All you have to do is put down 25% of whatever is left. So if you're 100,000 too much, you have to put 25% of that down. So you have to put $25,000 on a $500,000 house that you have to go buy.
That's not bad. That's more than
That's
what most people
nothing.
have to put down
It's
anyways.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I have people doing it all the time. And that's how you can go, especially when you're you buy where where you're stationed at. And then when you go to the next place, you buy at the next place you're at. The only problem you run into is when you're in a place that's very expensive and you can't find anything.
Yeah.
You wait till the next one, or because it has to be your primary residence every time you buy. And what I was trying to get at is I've been hearing some of the stuff on TikTok and everywhere else, and they're like, I help somebody build the whole portfolio in real estate using the VA loan to buy investment property. Okay, what do you mean by that? Because yes, you can go buy a fourplex with your VA loan, but you got to qualify for the full payment.
Yeah.
That's it. It's not a big deal. Where if you use a FHA loan or a conventional loan, you can use the rents towards the actual qualifying. Because right now with conventional, if you go to live into a fourplex, it's only 5% down.
Yeah, no, it's not bad.
If you're going to buy that as a investment, it's 25% down.
Yeah, no, like a DSRC loan or something like that. Yeah, you're 25% down.
Well, I'm just talking a regular conventional loan. I'm just in DSCR. Yes, I can do those for 10% down or 20% down. That's really? And I can do them in 32 different states because you don't have to be licensed in 32 different states to do those in.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So people understand a DSCR loan is kind of like what we do for apartment complex. We do look at the debt service. You have to just service the debt by what you bring in for rent, period. And there's a percentage that we have to use on that. And sometimes the percentages, we have to look at the different things and figure out which is a better way to do it. So, because I did one, a buddy of mine, he's bought in Tennessee, he's buying other places, and I've been helping him. So
nice. Heck yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah. So if you ever need one, let me know.
Yeah, no, I'm probably definitely gonna, yeah.
Yeah. Because once I found I can do it, because I'm not licensed in every state, because I do most of my stuff in California. Used to be a third of all mortgages were done in California. It's a little bit less than that. It's about 25% of all mortgages. I'm like, what more do I need? There's 40 million people in California, but the problem is only 44% of us can purchase now here in California.
Prices, it's expensive. It's expensive though.
Yeah, our starter home is like $475, and you don't want to live there.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's insane.
Well, you just said you bought Airbnbs for 500,000 and sold them for 900.
Yeah, but those are like nice. Those are nice houses though. Like I had one of them. I was walking around and it's like, dude, I want to live here. Like I would every morning. I woke up, looked around, I was like, man, I made it in life. There were nice properties.
When you put in, so how did you figure out to put a mini little golf course in them?
So I had actually just bought my first Airbnb in March of 2020. I literally closed like March 5th, 2020. And then obviously COVID happened and the world shut down. Like literally I renovated it. I put it on Airbnb. I got my first booking. They stayed. And then right before my next booking came in, the world shut down. Airbnb locked its doors and everything. I was like, man, what did I do? I just wasted all my money. So instead I went to my Airbnb. I spent 3 months chilling in my cabin in the Smoky Mountains, had hot tubs. I had a great quarantine. It was a good time. And so I just spent the whole time just thinking, man, how am I going to come out of it? How am I going to come out of it? And I had a really good friend of mine and mentor. The reason I even started buying cabins in the first place was he was at his cabin just up the road. So we'd get together, have some drinks, and we're just like, man, what are we going to do post coming out of this? And just kind of the conversation of mini golf courses kind of came into play. I was like, yo, I wonder if we could build these things. And sure enough, he had a contractor. He built the first one. And then about a week later, I came in and built mine. And then, just started building them. And they blew up. I mean, honestly, I think they added $20,000+ a year in revenue. Because if you think about Airbnb, I always make this joke, but Airbnb is kind of like Tinder. You're swiping through. There's 1,000 cabins with hot tubs and all the same amenities. But all of a sudden, you're scrolling, you see this awesome mini golf course on the property. You're like, whoa, that's cool. So you're going to click on it and then go through the photos, and your chances of booking go exponentially higher, and you can charge more per night. So yeah, it was just something we had thought of. Now so many people have mini golf courses out here in the Smokies. It's crazy. But I'd like to say we were kind of the first ones to start building them. It was pretty cool.
So when you mean mini, how many holes are you talking about?
Like nine to 15 holes.
Oh, really?
Like,
That
no,
many?
they were like, yeah, no, they're
How
full
much
on
property?
courses.
How much property do you?
I mean, if you think about like when you go to a putt and play, you know, the holes are only 2 feet wide by, 10, 15, 20 feet long, and you can kind of zigzag them
so
around.
you're talking like a mini golf course.
Just putting, yeah.
Okay,
Just
gotcha.
like a putt course. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Cool little things that go under tunnels and pop out.
Right. No, for a minute there, I was like, you had a 9-hole golf
No,
course.
no. We're just talking straight little putt, mini golf courses.
And so now you don't do that as much, right? You're not doing the Airbnb as much.
No, I got out of that in 2023. I had a couple run-ins with Airbnb that just, man, they really they don't really treat the hosts that well. And I had a really bad experience with a guest, and it was just like, you know what, I'm out. I saw the market starting to come down. I knew I could still sell for a pretty good profit, so I offloaded the last of my properties and walked away from the Airbnb game.
And all right, and when did you write your book?
That kind of came out in the last few months. Honestly, that just came out about 2.5 months ago. Finished. I spent all last year writing it. After I sold all my Airbnbs, I kind of was chilling. Yeah, I hit a new milestone. I had $1 million cash in the bank, and I still had some other conventional rentals that were cash flowing. So I bought a truck and travel trailer, spent 6 months. I did like a full loop around the United States. I got into triathlon. So I was just doing triathlon races all over the country, and was just hanging out, working on the book, and just living life.
Wow. And how long did it took you to write your book?
It took pretty much about a year to write it.
And did you self-publish?
Yeah, just self-published, nothing crazy. Amazon, KDP.
No, it's not. Don't do that. I mean, self-publishing. The best thing about self-publishing is you own it.
You own it.
You can do a
Yes.
course on it. You can do many other things that if you get published by somebody, you don't own your words anymore. And I don't know if you get old enough, but it's like on Seinfeld where Kramer sold his rights. I don't know if you ever watched Seinfeld.
Yeah. I definitely, I watched Seinfeld.
Kramer, he gave up his stories to the guy that what's her name worked for, because he wanted to write a book and he had no stories, and so Kramer sold his stories and he couldn't talk about them anymore.
Yeah.
And so and then so that's what people don't understand is you don't own it anymore. It's theirs. You can't even, you can talk about your book, you can promote your book, but you can't break anything out and make a course out of it or anything else. They own it.
Fair enough. Yeah. So no, I have a course, and I was able to make a course. I'm working on finishing the course, and everything. And so, yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a cool experience. It's just crazy because if you talk to my middle school, high school teachers, they would die. You wrote a book? Like what? Oh man.
Yeah, my book came out 2 years ago in February. Financial Freedom: Building Personal Wealth Through Home Ownership. Same thing. My high school counselor said I was a blue collar worker. I'd amount to nothing. And it's like, okay, you just don't understand what I went through. I lost my dad at 12, hairy cell leukemia. Didn't have a father figure. Had to work at, I went and, it's different. You don't know what kids are going through in life to tell them that they're not going to amount. If it wasn't for the military, I wouldn't be where I am now. And I needed that little get away, figure stuff out, because I didn't start school until my 3rd year in.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the first 2 years I played around, and then
you're having fun, you're traveling, you're doing the military thing,
And then I came back, after going to specialty schools, and started, what's the school thing I can do? And, and started going to school, and then got your bachelor's. And I was like, let me see if I can get my master's. And and then that's it. When I got remarried this last time, my wife's like, she went and got her master's because I had mine. She's a little competitive. I was like, I'm going to go get my PhD. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to get my PhD.
Nah, you have fun with that one, yo. Have fun with that one.
Yeah, I don't need to be called doctor.
No, not worth the extra 6 years of school. No, thank you. I'm
so
schooled out, man.
Now, are you still doing triathlons at all, or that was just?
Oh yeah, I got a race. So it's actually grown exponentially since then. So like that year, I just entered into triathlons. I was doing little sprints up to like Olympic distance triathlons. I actually, in the last few months, I got into half Ironmans, and then back in September, I did a full Ironman. And then just for New Year's, I did my first 100-mile ultra marathon. And so it's growing and growing and growing. So I got a race this weekend, next weekend. I get every year I do, probably 10 to 15 races.
Wow. Yeah. So for me, I preferred the Olympic distance.
Olympic distance is a good distance.
Is a perfect distance. Sprints are just too, it's just, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'2", when my leanest, because I lifted so much when I was younger, I'm 230 is the leanest I can get when I was doing triathlons. So I was a Clydesdale. And so, it's like, I only look for other C's. I don't really care about it. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Yes. So I always did them where they put the C's on your calf, so you know who the other Clydesdales were.
Yeah.
The best Olympic distance I ever liked was the Nations Triathlon. That was the best one.
Yeah. Where was that at?
That was in DC.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, it was the fastest I've ever done. The bike ride, because there were so many people. There was like 5,000 in my age group.
Whoa! So you're motivated. You're just everywhere you look. I got to beat that guy. I got to beat that guy.
No, the C's all I care about. But we went over on our bikes, and we were just, you're not supposed to be drafting, but we couldn't help it because the amount of people on the road just was so many to pass them. And yeah, we did. It was as fast as I've ever done 25 miles.
My first Olympic, you'll appreciate this because of where you live, but my first Olympic distance was on that road trip. And what started the road trip is I had to get out to California because I did the Bass, or not the Bass Lake up in Yosemite, Olympic triathlon. That was my first one. So that's what kickstarted the road. I drove from Tennessee to there, and then from there I went up the coast all the way up to Canada and everything. And so, but my first Olympic distance was just right over there in Yosemite. So beautiful. Such an awesome race.
I'm an hour away from that. My cabin's an hour away from that. So
nice.
On my way to my cabin, I go past Yosemite to go up further.
Beautiful.
It's a great place. Now I lost my train of thought after you said that. It's triathlons are great to be in shape, but I was going to ask you, what is your best bike, swim, or run?
I'm a runner, man. I'm a runner through and through. I love running. A lot of triathletes, terrible swimmer, okay biker, good runner.
Yeah, see, I'm a great swimmer and a great biker. I hate running.
Most people do, which in an Ironman is nice because you're not dreading doing a full marathon after biking 112 miles. I'm like, get me off this bike. I can't wait to start running. Like, let's go.
I dread that. I was like, get me on the bike. I mean, swim, and I can swim past anybody and bike past anybody. Then they start passing me as I'm running. There's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, no, 230. That's a lot. You're 6'2". That's a lot. That's tough to run at that size, man.
That's why they wanted me to do a total knee replacement through the VA, and I said no.
That's tough, man.
Because if you do that, you can't run on it. You can't do anything with it. Yeah. So I did some other stuff. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But I mean, because people don't realize, and this is what people need to understand, is total knee replacement says no running on it.
You're game set match.
If you do that, you're going to barely get 10 years out of it, and the next one's just going to hurt and not work well. So yeah. And I was like, and the guy's like, you're too young to have it. Don't even think about it. Let's try this other stuff. And that's what we did. So
fair enough. That's my biggest fear is I got a pretty bad rough left knee, and it hurt these ultras and it hurts pretty bad, but I want to do these races so bad. And so I'm scared of what the future has.
I'll tell you, I'm not going to tell you on here, but I'll tell you the stuff that they gave me to take on a regular basis. And it changed the pain in my knee. It's for arthritis, but it's just amazing how it made a change in my knee. My doctor, that's my new doctor so I have my wife works for Kaiser, so I have Kaiser, and then I also have a VA. VA I just went just in case I needed it for something. And he's like, why don't we try this one? And because I couldn't take other stuff. And he's like, and I took it. I was like, wow, what a difference it made in my knee. Yeah. So worst case, what I'll have to do is after the show, I'll go get the name of it, because it's Mexicam or something, and I'll send it to you in the little text.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good.
All right. All right. Just anything else you want to talk about today? How do people find your book? When's your course going to be available? Oh, I should ask, are you still doing the coaching?
Yeah,
We
so
didn't get into that. Yeah.
yeah, no, you're good. I do life and fitness coaching, really life is awesome, man. We live in a beautiful world, beautiful, especially a beautiful country. And life is meant to be lived. And so many people just spend their days stressed and so worried. And if you can just kind of figure out the not even I won't even say the cheat code to life, but if you can just figure out a purpose and work towards that purpose every single day, man. Like I wake up every day and this world is just my playground. And so my goal after going on that road trip, I really, was writing the book, and it's just kind of become my mission to help as many people as I can live their best lives. Because I wake up every day and I just literally live life to the extreme every day, and I want to help people do that. So I do life and fitness coaching. I think it's all correlated. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And so if you can get dialed in, take care of yourself, fuel your body with proper nutrition and get good sleep and cut out the alcohol and the crap, you're already a leg up on living a better life. So yeah, I do life and fitness coaching, and that's kind of where the book stemmed from. And so, yeah, I mean, just compoundercoach.com. You can go to my website, compoundercoach.com, and find me and look up my stuff. And yeah, I love to just chat with people. And if I could say one thing that someone picks up, even if they don't take me as a coach, we just jump on a call and I say one thing that sticks with them, that's a win in my book.
Yeah. Because the one thing about when we get out, there's a bunch of things we lack. And that is a lot, most people don't stick with the fitness, and they should. They need to.
It just needs to become a lifestyle. The problem is most people do a diet or they'll do a trend, a fad, and it's always like a means to an end. Like it's always like I'm going to do this I'm going to do this diet for 6 months. Okay, cool. I lost a bunch of weight, and then after 6 months, it's like now what? Okay, they revert back to their old ways, and then they gain the weight back, and typically you gain it back faster and even more because you yo-yo and it tweaks your metabolism. And so it's really not about how much weight you can lose now. It's about just creating a sustainable lifestyle for yourself that you can continue. So my whole philosophy is compound effect coaching. I believe in the compound effect, just like, compound interest, where every decision you make today will determine the life you live tomorrow. And so if you could just every day, just be consciously aware of making those little decisions, those little choices that your future self will thank you for, you'll be light years ahead. Especially for the younger generations that, your 20s and 30s, how you live in your 40s is a result of how you live in your 30s. The decisions I make right now throughout my 30s will determine the life I live in my 40s. And so I'm consciously aware of that. And so I'm going to make those decisions now. So that way, when I'm 40, I'm not looking back like, damn, 30-year-old Justin, you were a knucklehead. You made wrong decisions. You made bad choices. Now I'm struggling. I'm fat, out of shape, overweight, hating my life, borderline diabetic. No, I'm going to be back like, hey, 30-year-old Justin, you made great decisions. You made great choices. I'm chilling. I got a good life. Everything's good. I got my dream car. I'm traveling, got a family. Life is good, And so it all comes from the choices.
Right. But not, but people might be, so, stuff that they've seen while they're in that they didn't deal with is what causing them to have those problems. So I think there's a lot, the whole body needs to be looked at.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why I interviewed a guy who was helping veterans never go back in prison again. And he was talking about that there's a boot camp but because he thinks PTSD will either kill you or you go to prison, because you die when you go to prison. And he's like, and there needs to be a boot camp out, just like there's a boot camp in. And so we are actually, after so many times hearing this over the past 3 to 4 years, we actually are creating that right now.
Nice.
To where people can go to one place and find all those 6 things that we lost once we got out. One of them is fitness. So I'll talk to you about being one of the people for the fitness side of it. Okay.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah. Absolutely.
I want to say it all right here because we got to finish build. It's being built right now, and it's going to be finalized in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Perfect timing then.
Oh, it was one of those things where our event, our Operation Firewalk, it all came into head there because I talked about it again this weekend. And then I started working on it Sunday night going, okay, this is it. I have a VA pod that does all this work for me. And I'm like, okay, and I dropped it to them today, and they'll have it done for me by next week. And
Nice.
It's just a matter of now getting all the components and who's going to handle that. But there's just things that we as vets, when we get out, we lack: community, the fitness, financial stuff, all those different things that we were not taught while we're in, and not everybody understands them. So
Absolutely. And the thing is a lot of, they have that mentality. At one point they were in the military, they were in the best shape of their lives and everything. And then it kind of dwindles and goes away as life kind of starts to throw you around. So it's about finding that, finding the self that you used to be and being able to recapturize that and become that person again, the person that you enjoyed and loved. And you got to confront some demons in order to do that sometimes. And so that's great. I love what you're doing. And that's awesome, because it is sad. And, sorry, I was getting a call. But yeah, no, it is sad. And I've lost several friends to suicide over the years.
Yeah.
And it sucks. Shouldn't happen.
Most people lost more people to suicide than they lost while they were in deployment or anywhere else.
Yeah.
So, and we just need, people just lose their purpose. We need to get all that back to them. And that's why we need to put this community together. And that's what we're trying to do. Justin, I appreciate you being on the show, explaining your book. I'd love to get a copy of your book signed by you. And if you send me, we'll talk afterwards. If you send it to me, I'll buy one and send it to somebody else.
Cool. Sounds good. I can definitely do that.
All right. And how do they find you? What's social media, anywhere?
The Compounder Coach on Instagram, the Compounder Coach, or compoundercoach.com.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate you being here today.
Awesome. Hey, appreciate having me. Thank you.
My pleasure.